Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to We Are Free TV, the channel of the people, by the people, for the people, where we interview various guests from around the world about different subjects, including alternative medicine, alternative education, alternative nutrition, spirituality, non-duality, Hinduism, Buddhism, Kabbalah, various quantum physics and quantum mechanics and science and cutting-edge technologies and ideas and all those things to do with self-development and improvement and raising the frequency and fifth dimension and channeling and aliens, etc. So anyone who is any of the above is more than welcome to contact us so we can arrange the interview. Also, I'd like to thank all the people who have donated. Thank you very much. We heavily depend on your donations to remain an independent channel that is away from the censoring bodies, and we know who they are. Sometimes we do talk about subjects that are kind of not acceptable, but today that's not the case, so that's not that important. Also, I'd like to encourage you to join our Telegram group, which is No Censorship TV, shown down here. And also you could go to our website, which is wearefree.tv. You just go there through Google and then click on join us and send us your email. Just add your email, click send, and then you'll be added to our mailing list and be notified of any new interviews as and when they are published. So thank you very much for that. And of course, please do feel free to share this interview wherever you possibly can, on your Instagram, on your TikTok, on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter. Send it to your friends by email, by Telegram, by WhatsApp, etc. So thank you very much for your cooperation on that. And today, my guest is a very special man. His name is Paul Heddermane, and he is a non-duality teacher. The name of the interview is Much Ado About Nothing, a talk about non-duality from the unique perspective of Paul Heddermane. So, hello there, Paul. How are you today? Oops, 1 second. I can't hear you. Here we go. Yep. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good, good. You're coming in and out a little bit. So just
okay.
The audio. Yeah.
Fine. So I'll try and perhaps move this a little bit, see how it goes. So, Paul, I've been following you for like 2 years now. Okay, I'm known as someone, I don't hide the fact that I've detached myself from mainstream media 19 years ago. I don't watch TV of any kind of news. I don't read newspapers. I don't listen to the radio. And I've kind of exited and deleted all my WhatsApp groups, including my family and friends, because I just want to stay detached from all this, all these distractions. And all I do is I listen to a few YouTubers, you being one of them. I kind of listen to every single one of your videos as and when they come out, like once a week or so. And fascinating. I must say, I think you're one of the best non-duality teachers on the planet today. And I've listened to all of them, and I really appreciate the way you explain it. So thank you very much for that. Now,
well, thank you.
Yeah,
well, I am the best.
You're the best.
The best.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I'm going to do today is I've prepared all these kind of sentences that I've quoted you stating so many times, and I want to kind of dig deep. And what I'd like to do is this. You talk about, I'd like you not to mention the word you, to try not to say the word you in this interview. Instead, let's now define the two things. One is what you normally refer to as reality, awareness, consciousness, blah, 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 the higher self, all that. Let's pick one word, let's say reality, and that's going to be the word you're going to use. And when you talk about the action figure or the mental state or whatever you want to call it, what would you like to call it? The mental state? Then only call it the mental state. Don't call it you. Because when you say you, sometimes it's like, well, is he talking about reality? Is he talking about the mental state? What is he exactly referring to at that particular time?
I think that's a form of sex that's going on.
Okay. So how would you like to do this, if you see what I mean? How will I know when you say you, what you're referring to?
Basically, the words really don't matter as much as many may think. It's more of a sense that people will get by hearing the undercurrent of the words. Yeah. So the words could be sloppy, but the message is direct.
Okay.
So try to call reality, and let's call it the mental process or selfing. Yeah.
So there's reality and there's selfing. Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Let's
just
see again. The whole point of this is non-duality, which would negate the reality of those two things. Yeah.
But how could something negate the reality of reality? Because from what I understand, the core essence is reality.
Yes, but in the appearances, those two things are negated.
So if reality is negated, what's left? What are you left with?
No. They're the opposite of a reality and selfing. Those two things are appearances. Okay. So those two things get negated by the idea of non-duality. So basically, the emperor is left with no clothes, which is exactly how it's always been. Yes.
So before we start, I'll ask you this: you know how Ramana Maharshi, or all these non-duality Advaita, they talk about the self being the actual. I think they mean that is reality, the self. Okay, yeah. Unlike the ego, which would be the action figure, and self kind of realizes itself. And you know how Rupert Spira says that everything is a modulation of that higher self, or as you say, awareness, or consciousness. So the non-existent thing is like a wave within the sea itself.
Well, yeah, but see, we're not speaking in that direction. We're not trying to describe what is. We're trying to describe what isn't, in a way. Because we are, the assumption or the premise of non-duality is being ourselves reality, yes? That we are what we're looking for. So there's no point to keep looking for it if you are what you're looking for.
I understand. So and when you say we are reality, is that like the Tao, where everything is one, there's no separateness, the whole thing is just one, there's only one thing going on, as Fred Davis says, and you are it. So is that the reality?
There's a lot of ways of saying, but the saying doesn't capture it. It's just basically the best way to arrive at where you already are is sort of like backing in through negation.
Fine.
So you negate not, and then you find yourself in the parking space of what you are. And when you find yourself there, you've never moved. You've always been there.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So let's take the word ego. We all know about the word ego. Alan Watts talks about the ego being an illusion. So let's just use those words and say, well, when you negate the ego, you realize that there is no ego. Like, for example, when you have a thought, you say, well, I'm not the thought. When you have an idea, that, well, I'm not the idea. When I have a feeling, well, I'm not that feeling. So what am I? Well, I'm kind of left with this inexplicable awareness, which is what I am.
No, the negation isn't of the ego. It's the negation is that you are or have one. That's the negation.
So the negation is of having an ego?
The idea of being one or having one is what's negated. The idea of being a one who has or doesn't have an ego. What we're speaking of has nothing to do with the idea of ego. It has to do with a sense of ownership, a feeling of being the one when they're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and touching. And then suddenly that's claimed, and now you're the seer, the hearer, the feeler, the taster, the toucher. We're looking at that, yes?
Okay. So let me stop you there. Okay, let's talk about that. I've heard you say how there is, how the noun jumps before the cart and claims the verbing, okay? So let's say this...
Noun, there is no noun. There's an implying, there's a claiming of the verbing, and that claiming implies that there's a noun, and then the noun is presupposed before all the verbing.
Exactly.
That's how it goes.
And let me repeat that. There is a claiming of the verbing, which also presupposes a noun that comes before the verbing. Now let's deconstruct this. So what really is the opposite of that. There is no noun to start with, and there's nothing that can actually claim the verbing, because that thing that's claiming doesn't exist, and the verbing itself is being claimed somehow. So even the verbing doesn't exist, or maybe it exists, but the
Well,
word verbing kind of reduces it into something smaller than what it really is.
Let's not go into the microscopic world. Let's just say in appearance, there's verbing, there's action, activity. Yeah.
In appearance.
In other words, there's seeing, but there's no seer. Yeah. There's hearing, but there's no hearer. There's doing, but there's no doer. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we give an example.
Instead of negating all these activities, you just negate the one. Yes. And negating the one, there's no destroying of it because it doesn't exist. It's just negated.
The one?
You see it from other than it.
Who do you mean the one? Who do you mean by the one?
The one is the feeling of being a long-lasting, independent, separate thing. The doer of shit, it has nothing to do.
So the noun, I see. So I'll just explain to the audience. So let's try and give an example of what Paul just said. Imagine that one wakes up in the morning, so you open your eyes, and then you get up and you go to the bathroom and you start brushing your teeth. Well, that's verbing. There's the body that's walking around and seems to be doing an activity. However, there is a belief of some sort that there's a me, that Michael Bloom is the entity that gets up and decides to go to the bathroom and decides to brush its teeth. But actually, there is no Michael. There's just this happening.
Yes.
Just like a tree.
It gets a little more involved because there'll be a recognition that there's no Michael, but then there'll be a claiming of that recognition, and then there'll be another Michael appearing.
Yes.
See, this is what people need to know more.
That's amazing.
They don't need to know what they are. They need to know what they're not and how it keeps reestablishing itself.
Huge what you just said. Let me just repeat that. So by going, well, I know there's no Michael, there's no noun here. Yeah. There's just this happening. But by doing that, I'm creating another Michael that kind of realizes that there is no Michael. Wow.
Yes, it kind of, but only on a very surface level.
It does what?
It may kind of realizes it on a surface level. It's not. It doesn't have any real traction.
It meaning the understanding, the realization that there is no Michael?
Because the understanding is being held by the idea of being the one who understands.
Yep.
So it gets neutered. Yeah.
So what to do? First of all, I'm totally with you, and thank you very much for cooperating and and being patient with me. So what do we do? So what has to be done? What do we do? When I say we, again, it's claiming that we that has to do something.
Go to the bathroom, look outside, whatever. You'll be seeing there's a whole lot of doing, and that's not driven by the narrative. The narrative tries to sort of describe with coming out of a past tense what's happening now. You just see it. You just see what's going on, and things fall into place. Yeah, blue becomes blue, red becomes red. The horse is in front of the cart, and maybe this idea blooming as where you seem to be will become the last answer. You'll have no interest in looking for what can't be found. You'll have no interest in seeking.
You just said you. Who are you talking about? Sorry, you just said you. Who are you talking about?
All right, let's say the selfing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So the selfing.
The self will keep looking for what it is.
So the selfing would just rest into itself and go about be doing selfing without claiming anything.
Well, the selfing doesn't claim anything. There's a claiming of everything through the selfing. The selfing implies something. So it doesn't imply something's going to happen. It implies something already is. Yeah. So in other words, people don't feel, or whatever you want to call it. The action figure doesn't feel they're in the act of becoming self. They feel they already are one, you see.
So let's replace that with Michael or Paul. So Michael.
All right. So Michael doesn't feel he's becoming Michael. He feels he already is Michael. And usually Michael is trying to become un-Michael, really, most of the time.
Okay, are you talking about Michael going on a retreat and trying to meditate and trying to get out of him and trying to release the ego Michael and merge with consciousness and that kind of thing?
That's for the Michael to question,
no, but
not
I mean,
for the Paul.
Michael's Joe Bloggs, for example, who's never been on a retreat. Is he not trying to get out of himself? Or is he also trying to get out of Joe Bloggs?
Well, he may think he is, but something may override that, and he may have great value out of the retreat. I can't say. I'm not a believer or a non-believer in retreats. I believe there's something going on before everything that gives the meaning to everything. So basically, retreat for one person or one Michael could be very helpful, and for another Michael, it could be a disservice.
Okay.
It's not the retreat.
So let's just go back to what you just said. You said that there's no becoming of Michael. There's an idea that Michael already exists. Okay?
Yeah.
And that is done by awareness. Awareness, sorry, the selfing does that. The selfing believes that there is a Michael.
Completely. Its whole story is I was a Michael, I'm going to be a Michael, therefore I am a Michael. Yes.
Uh-huh.
It's a time. That's why if you look at this activity, this event, you could call it dreaming in a sense, because a lot of stuff that's impossible appears to be possible through time. Yeah.
This is my next question. What do you mean by that? Sorry. What do you mean in time? You said that.
All right. Let's say time is like a lens.
Okay.
So if you're looking through the lens of time, you see things quite differently.
Who's you? You're saying you again. You lost me.
Oh, whatever. Mind. Let's say mind is looking at it and it's seeing things quite differently.
Who's looking at it? Mind?
Mind. Let's say the brain, whatever you want to call it.
So the brain is looking at the brain.
Yes, there's a looking through a lens of time, and then things appear based on that influence of time. Yes, that's dreaming.
Okay. But isn't time an illusion, according to quantum physics and all that?
It's an illusion, but so is everything else here. Yet there seems to be a lot of uncaused effects, don't they?
Seems to be what? A lot of
uncaused effects.
Uncaused.
Time affecting you. Time seems to be affecting Michael and Paul quite a lot.
Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
Yes, does it? Yes. So they're called uncaused effects. They have no cause. That's dreaming. Yes?
Mm-hmm. So what would be a caused effect?
What would be a cause and effect? Not that. You're responding to something that's not so as if it's so. Yeah? Or there's Michael responding to something or reacting to something as if it's so, and not because of that, but Michael, it has an effect. Because Michael is the dreaming. Yeah?
Uh-huh. Of
not
God.
Action, but as Michael, or as what Michael represents, we are the dreaming of the dreaming. Yeah, we are not the dreamt of the dreaming. This is what happens when the narration of the noun verb occurs. You start as the dreamt. That's why you, as the dreamt, trying to understand that it's dreaming doesn't go anywhere. Yeah? So because you're now suddenly, Michael is looking at everything from the dreamt. Yeah? What we're sharing is there can be a looking from the dreaming. So when there's a looking from the dreaming about the dreamt, there's clarity. When the dreamt keeps looking at the dreaming, that doesn't go anywhere. It just reinforces the...
You keep saying, look at what isn't from what is, rather than looking at what is from what isn't, with the lion and the sheep and all that. Is that what you just said?
Yes, because if you're trying to look at what is from what isn't, you're getting a conceptual idea from what isn't about what is. It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, it goes places, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's just sort of like the idea that Michael and Paul, as an action figure, it's always asked, Is there time? Is there free will or predestination? Yeah. Now, Ramana Maharshi, who you noted earlier, has a beautiful statement. It says, as long as there's a sense of individuality, he's not saying there's individuality, there's a sense of individuality. As long as there's a sense of individuality, there's a sense of free will. It's just that simple.
So they're both.
So why would...
Why would what, sorry?
As long as there's a sense of individuality, which is the feeling of the action figure, yes?
Yep.
That sense of individuality sets up the opportunity to have a sense of free will. They go hand in hand. To try to convince their sense of individuality that there is no free will is pointless. It's ridiculous, because the programming of the action figure is that it wanted to get a mocha, but it switched to an espresso. So it's constantly going to be reaffirming that programming. And now you're trying to do a week-long retreat about there is no free will. You're targeting the wrong fucking populace. Yes?
But are you saying that both of them don't exist? Free will and the other thing?
But they appear to exist. As long as we're appearing, things appear. Yes? Yes.
Okay.
Yes?
Another thing you said is Huang Po, that what is perceived cannot be perceiving. I love that.
Well, of course.
And I use it. You know, sometimes I sit there and I go, oh, I need to go there tomorrow. I have these thoughts here. And then I'm like, hang on. Well, if there's something here that is conscious and aware of these thoughts. So I can't be the thoughts. Although the thought, if you ask the thought, they'd say, oh, I'm Michael's thought. He's creating this thought right now. You see what I mean?
Yes. So whatever can be perceived can't be perceiving completely negates the narrative most of us are listening to. Yeah. Or Michael and Paul are a product of listening to. Yes. The narrative is completely based on what is perceived is what's perceiving. The whole story is based on that. So Huang Po walked in and just cut it at the root, which is a beautiful, a first and final strike. Beautiful, yes.
Are you there?
So whatever can...
I mean, I can't say you, but within Paul or whatever is what's the word? Self-awareness? Is there self-awareness over there?
There's not self-awareness. There's just awareness, and it's over here.
Yeah.
It's not over there.
No, but I mean, compared to where I'm trying to say, are you Paul Hedderman? Are you enlightened? Are you self-aware? Have you realized yourself? You know, like Ramana Maharshi said.
I'm not any of those things, because all those things are going to end. All will end. Eh?
So what won't?
I don't really care. I don't know.
Well, I want to attain that state, because I think life's going to be fun. Like you say, you know, I'm going to travel lighter, and, you know, I'm going to be like, ideally, I feel like on a magic mushroom trip all day long, you know, just naturally.
Yes.
Yes.
But you're wanting it. Reason why it doesn't seem to be available.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
What are you going to do? Set out on a course of trying not to want it? That would be more wanting it. Mm-hmm. You just see you're not that. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not this is not an urban renewal project. It's a canceling of that budget, and then the attention and interest will be better spent. Yeah. You'll be here. You're
saying you again. You're saying you. Who are you talking about?
There'll be whatever here. Yeah. This whole idea of liberation is what happens really is you're freed from the need to be liberated. Let's put it that way. Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what you're hoping to be an arrival point is already available right now, no matter what time it is or what condition you seem to be in. Yes? So basically, this is not a call to arms, which if Michael gets riled up and gets fervently desiring non-duality, there was a reaction to the message as a call to arms when I see it as a disarming. Yes, it's just, you see the complete futility of Michael getting it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you say, the non-existent thing wants to attain salvation for the non-existent thing. Self can't get out of self. God damn it.
Exactly. So that's the point. And therefore, that which you feel is impeding you, you're just missing its greatest value, which is it's failed. Yeah.
The failed system.
So then
the
it's
failed
a failed
system.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Can you talk about the failed system, please?
It's a failed system. Any system, let's say I was a furniture store and I was selling furniture, and every time what I sold looked exactly like it was presented. When I told you it was going to be delivered, it was there. Yes? All those things. Would I have any need to rationalize or excuse or blame? No. Yes? Because I deliver the goods as they were presented. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to it's completely based on blaming, rationalization, and excusing. Yeah. It's a failed system.
You said listen to what?
Listen to the head, how this thing runs, and you see it's a failed system. Just on that basic level. Any system that uses a lot of excuses and blame and rationalization is failed. It hasn't delivered the goods.
Can you give an example? A typical one of a head doing this?
Give it an example. You know, when I go to Hawaii, everything's going to change. You get to Hawaii, and it doesn't change because you're there. So now suddenly, instead of seeing the fallacy of that system, you blame your girlfriend from screwing up the vacation in Hawaii. Yeah. So now you blame her, or you start rationalizing because who wants to spend $800 and feel terrible just like they did in New Jersey? So then there's a rationalization why this happened. Yeah. The basic thing is it tries to cover its tracks. It doesn't deliver the goods. You don't ever become happy, joyous, and free, do you?
Okay, so one who has attained whatever we can't name because there is no name would go to Hawaii with his girlfriend, and what's going to happen? Without the head. So can you describe that?
I'll be here just like I'll be there when I'm there.
And you won't be blaming, and if, let's say... And if the food that you're being served is cold and the champagne falls on the floor and spills... and on your girlfriend's shirt, what then? Just fuck it.
Who knows? That's not happening now. I don't know what the response will be.
But as a non-failed system, what would you expect it to be?
You wouldn't expect anything. You would just respond to the situation as it develops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any rote answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Right. So...
I think you froze there a second.
Yeah, you too, but it's coming back all the time. So
I lost you a second. You froze.
Yeah, I'm kind of back.
You froze a little.
You froze.
Interview.
It's not exactly you froze or me, you know. We don't even exist, you know. It's just particles of electricity being translated.
I'm hoping that people who are here have gotten over it's sort of like non-dual Pharisees. They know the letter of the law, but they don't have the spirit of the law. Yeah. I don't care about the word you or me. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's something you wear. If you want to spend a lot of times moving the trees at the expense of not seeing the forest, then you can do that. But to me, it's just pointless.
Again, I know why I'm doing it, and I believe I believe people watching it are going to say, well, I'm really happy Michael kind of pulled Paul up on it every time and said, well, you just said you, and then Paul said something else. It causes a lot of clarity, trust me. So, the non-existent thing, the identification with the subjectivity is something we spoke about, I believe. You want to say something about that?
Identification with the subjectivity. No, it's applying the subjectivity to the object.
So the subject is I
We're not,
see a tree. So I'm the subject. The tree is the
we're,
object.
we're not identified with the subjectivity. The subjectivity is identified as an attribute of the body. That's the subject. That's dualism. That's what non-duality is negating. Yes.
Example?
Identifying, there would be no need to identify with subjectivity. You are subjectivity. There's an identification of subjectivity to the body.
Okay. So when I say I, Michael, am seeing the tree, are you saying that the tree being the subject, and Michael and the tree are one? So there is no Michael watching the tree because Michael is the tree.
No. You said subjectivity, not subject.
Okay.
Subject is, yeah. The subject to an object is an object usually. You said subjectivity.
Yeah.
That's not not a thing. It's let's say the awareness. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's too deep, way too deep. So I am the body, the seer, the taster, the feeler.
No, you're not. Exactly.
I'm not, okay. So I am not the body. So anything, I have a
You
toothache.
don't have to say that.
I have a runny nose.
Just see, go in.
I'm just saying, if I say I have a runny nose, I have a toothache, I have a backache, all that's kind of what? It's not it.
Nope, it's running nose, toothache, backache.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And the taster, the feeler.
There's a claiming of the running nose. You can see the whole event. It's sort of like put it in like a freeze frame. Something's happening. Then there's a moment of time. There's a reaction to that. That reaction claims what's happening to imply there's a noun somewhere. The noun is manufactured after what's happening, but presupposed to be before what's happening. So now, instead of being in an event called living, you're in an interpretation of life happening to me.
Yep.
That's what's going on.
Beautiful.
Yes. And for a lot of people, let's call them non-people, that interpretation is severely lacking. And then there's more agitation gets produced. And then that which sets out in a course to get relief from the problem is the problem itself.
Yes.
So self can't get out of self. So fundamentally, the recognition is a failed one. The recognition, the awakening is a rude awakening. That which there was a reliance on is unreliable. It doesn't have the ability to know what it is because it is. Yes?
That's again.
Therefore, there's a lost interest. There's a collapse in the distribution of tons of interest and attention to that noun, and you start living more in the verbing. Yes? And there's just a relief and a freedom there that's not available to a noun. It's just not.
Yep.
Yeah. So the freedom is from the noun, not for the noun or through the noun or as the noun, but from it. Yeah. And the beautiful thing, there is no noun for it to be from. So basically, it looks like there's one requirement, but when the relief is available, there was no need for any requirement because there's never been a noun. Yeah. But see, when we're in this noun-verb continuum, to say there is no noun as a noun doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
It doesn't. You just more stuck, I feel. So let's not go there. Let's not say nothing exists while there's a belief that you exist. Let's just see what we're not. Yeah. And then find out what happens when that house of cards falls and then the cards get reshuffled and seek that and just you'll see it with new eyes, let's say. Yeah. And
you always say
people have to be interested in awakening. Being interested in awakening as what you're not is a deterrent to everything else. Yeah. It is.
As you say.
This is more interest.
As you say.
It's not a game. Yeah.
You can't get out of a place you've never been in.
That's right. So the thing is, there's a lost interest in what you're not, all those activities. And then there's a gaining of interest, and you find out about it as this experiential event. Yeah. You're never at the genesis of it, but you find out about it and you come to a conclusion. Hey, Paul, aka Paul, seems to be traveling lighter, and Paul isn't the author of that traveling lighter.
I don't think
so. It has a certain proportional utility that's quite good for Paul.
Yeah, I don't think language does us any favors, because you are already there. So you could say you and I, but there is no identification with it. Whereas other people need to attain that state and realize that the language that they are using is actually contradictory to what they've already attained. So it's kind of a double mission here, if you see what I mean.
Well, the thing is, you may want to have that understanding, but I remember when I was involved with this stuff earlier, people would get in touch with me and wanting to write a new language, you know? And I said, well, good luck, because I just think, why not just wear it loosely? Just don't take it so seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
The whole point isn't about it. The whole point isn't about the thoughts. It's about the idea that you're the thinker. Yeah. This is the whole point. So I found that it's a little bit, it's almost like a mental yogic posture of trying to say, don't say I or me and stuff. If you come to the talks we do, there'll be a sense of something that's not carried, but it's not the words you're getting. It's something else. Yeah.
So last time.
Yeah. I don't want to lend too much importance on.
Okay, I understand. Last time I took magic mushrooms, there was a seeing, a clear seeing of the noun that's being presupposed before the verbing, and I could see there was a seeing of the verbing and the seeing of the claiming, and the whole thing was so there. How come as soon as the mushrooms wore out, Michael was back, and he's still here right now? Just, everything I'm telling you is just words. I seem to understand everything you're saying, but I'm way not there. I'm not even close to being there.
What the message is based on, not the experience of Michael being there, but the knowledge that Michael appearing to be there isn't you. It's different. If you want to have a mushroom high the rest of your life, then just take mushrooms every day. Yeah. This is different than that. This is Michael continues as it does. Yes. But it's not seen as you. There's no disappearance of Michael, because there never was an appearance of Michael. There's never been a Michael. So Michael goes on as it has been going on, but there's a lack of interest in Michael. Yes. And therefore now the interest and attention, instead of being on that one little square in the big square, goes to the big part of the square, and there's a noticing of the little zoom.
That must be so much fun. I want it. Give it to me.
Well, it allows me to come here and talk with you.
You lucky son of a gun.
Yeah.
By the way, let's just stop for a moment and talk about alcoholism. I mean, alcohol, what kills me is I've done so many mind-altering, psychedelics, ayahuasca, bufo, mushrooms, San Pedro, peyote, all that. And I keep saying, well, when you do that, or LSD, you get somewhere. You realize, what really is going on. But when you drink alcohol, it just, detaches you from yourself. You're just, just completely gone, and it's shit. But every single non-duality teacher I know, who I really respect, has been an alcoholic. You, Fred Davis, Bob Saylor, Bob Saylor, something, the Australian guy.
Yeah.
What is it with alcoholism? Maybe I should become an alcoholic, and that's going to do it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can save you the trouble.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, but can you try and respond?
What's going on?
But what do you think is special about being an alcoholic that kind of helps you figure out non-duality?
I don't know. I have no idea, really. I know that you, if you live through it, you may have seen stuff that didn't seem to connect while you were in the throes of the addiction, but become very valid after you're out of the throes of the addiction.
Well, that seems to be it, exactly. Well, what is it?
So you get to see a lot, and then now you're still alive to tell the story.
Brilliant. So this I'm going to jump into.
Alcoholism to me thrives in the petri dish of obsession with self. The small s, this sense of being the owner and the doer and the haver and the feeler. This sense of being a long-lasting, independent, separate thing, which has subjective qualities. That feeling, that sense that's produced by the mental activities, which it is. Yeah. It's not a natural sense, it's a manufactured sense. The natural sense is I am, but I am Paul is manufactured. Yeah. So this manufacturing, if you get into traumatic situations, you may have a very large glimpse of it. And so if you can live through those and not die, that information may become valuable in passing it on to others. Yes? Yeah.
Totally clear. Now, let's jump into a difficult one. Explain, please, the idea that non-duality leaves you with your own devices and you realize they're not your own devices. Let's say, what do you mean by your own devices? You know, when you're left with your own devices, it's like you do it your way, nobody controls you, and it's like your thing.
Intellectual understanding, fitting everything into the mental logic that you seem to be framed by, trying to fit things around this idea of you instead of fitting the idea of you around something else. This is what I'm talking about, your own devices, thinking you can be something by doing and having all of these things. So non-duality, let's say, is like a big desert tortoise, and a coyote comes up and starts trying to get to the meat of the tortoise. The tortoise sucks back in. There's no meat to be had. The coyote loses interest in a minute or two. Yeah, takes off. That's non-duality. Non-duality is not a great skillful means. It's not going to get Paul out of some trouble Paul's having. It won't. Yeah, it's just the fact.
Yeah.
Not two. That's all.
It'll get reality out of the trouble Paul is giving it.
And what happens is that fact will put into high contrast what's the assumed facts that we're living as. Yeah, that's why it's so beautiful. A lot of other practices actually complement the assumed facts because it's taken that the assumed fact, is going to arrive somewhere. Non-duality doesn't play that game. It's just basically leaving you with your own devices, these assumed facts, so that you'll see they're not your own devices. And then when you recognize the assumed facts as not being so, and you recognize the futility of what you're not, arriving at what it is when it's never left, there's a loss of interest in all that assumed activity, and then there's more interest in the fact.
Okay, so how come I can't do it? I mean, I obviously understand everything, but why can't I implement it? Or why can't an successful implementation of it happen?
The assumed fact still wants to be there to experience its own absence.
Why? Is it an addiction? Maybe it's an addiction.
It's definitely an addiction. To me, if you want to see things as origin and time, the original addiction is the mental addiction to this idea of being a noun, for sure.
But why?
It's most addictions are trying to get relief from, really. When you're drinking and using, you're trying to get out of that most of the time.
Out of what you're not in.
What?
You're trying to get out of what you're not in.
Exactly. So self can't get out of self.
So it's like drinking to get out of the state of being drunk. Drinking more to get sober.
Yeah, people do it. This is what happens. It's a bizarro world.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get out what we're not in, and we're trying to get into what we're not out of. So this is the dilemma. I feel non-duality brings this into high contrast, so that listening to the message of non-duality, you'll see things in a much more illuminated way than you would in a process or a path. Because usually the process and the path has been taken over in a way by that framing of the assumed fact. So it's me that's on this spiritual path. The path, what's usually on a path? A body, yes?
Yeah.
What walks a path? The spirit doesn't walk a path. Spirit doesn't, a body does. So even spirituality is framed from the body, as a body. It's just, but a lot of things that you enter don't illuminate those facts. But non-duality, at least from in my experience, it worked here. Yeah,
Can you
could
name
see
a few?
what I'm.
Name a few things that don't work.
Intellectual understanding doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Believing you can have an experience of non-duality doesn't work. Yeah. Trying to get it doesn't work. Trying to boil it down to an experience when it's way beyond that doesn't work. Trying to believe you could have it and then lose it, that doesn't work. Yes.
So once you get it, you don't lose it? Once you get it? Or once it's got?
So there's no losing it. See, this is the point. If you believe you've achieved something, you're going to believe you can lose it. This isn't what this message is about.
Amazing.
It's not about getting and then stabilizing and maintaining it. That would be all about you again.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about a fact. Yeah. The fact is there's not two. Yeah. So this idea of being this subject-object hybrid isn't so. Yeah. Now, do I want to chant that as the spiritual object hybrid? No, it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why satsangs we hold are mostly presented with warnings, because the whole point is the system that's failed has a lot of strategies to keep itself in place. That's what occurs.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't know them, if you don't have a certain sense of recognition, then every time you meet the thief, you're going to call it me. You're just so basically, you're so worried about something getting in the house, and it's in the house in a way. So
again, the thief? Who's the thief? You keep talking about the thief and the police and the robber or something.
It's just a way of imaging to communicate in a picture. There is no thief, obviously. There are activities, yeah? Mm-hmm. There's an activity of the thief, and then there's the activity of claiming the seeing, and then that's claiming of the seeing is cast as the policeman. So sometimes people see the thief of the selfing, but don't see the policeman of the selfing. Yes? So they get stuck. Now they got stuck, and they start doing sort of what people are doing. Don't say I, don't say you, don't say this, don't say that. It's all Pharisee. It's bullshit.
Or go meditate for 5 hours. Go meditate for 5 hours. Which brings me...
It doesn't work. That stuff, you just keep reinforcing what you're not.
Yeah. So, as soon as you sit down on the meditation mat, you are in bondage of the meditator.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the mental state is going to do that, for sure. Now, without knowing it, you'll have those handcuffs on because you're not aware. The awareness hasn't seen it. You haven't seen it. You haven't recognized selfing. So basically, it's going to have its sway because you're going to sit down, and as soon as you sit down, you're now the meditator. Yeah. And so the meditation will be used by the mental state to reinforce the idea of being the meditator. Just like Ramana said, there's a presupposing of this non-existent thing. What's the presupposing? That it's existing, that it's the one that's doing things. It's the one that's seeing and hearing and feeling and tasting. Yes. So there's that presupposing of the non-existent thing that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. If that's the case, your spiritual practices themselves are reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? There you go.
So why would the Buddha, after sitting under the whatever tree, and he came to these realizations and came out with these sutras and said, well, I'm going to give you a roadmap to that, to what Paul Hedderman is talking about, and meditation is a big part of it. Do you think meditation has any value at all?
It has a lot of value, or it may be of disservice. Meditation is neutral. It's the one who's before it. It's us.
I understand.
Yeah, not
it might help one. It might help get there. You can sit there being the meditator, and suddenly meditation will help you get out of the meditation. You'll realize that there is no meditator because you've meditated.
Maybe, yeah. It can be used that way. But person, if it's used that way, the person that's doing all the meditation doesn't know that, or they would have stopped.
Again? The what?
If it's going to be used that way, that the meditation is going to lead to that there's no need to meditate. If the meditator knew that earlier, they would have stopped earlier. So they weren't under that assumption. They thought they were going somewhere.
Yeah, better later than never.
Well, yes. This is captured by Course in Miracles, that we're going to dream ourselves out of the dreaming. And as we do, the dream will get happier. So, yes. The meditator can meditate itself out of the meditator. Yes.
Yeah.
It may take a lot of fucking time and hemorrhoids and bad knees, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke about Paul is the feeling of the claiming. I actually think we should go back there because you mentioned it at the beginning and I was like, ooh, this is deep and heavy. I'm not really getting it. So now that I've had this discussion with you, let's go back to the idea of Paul is the feeling. The idea of Paul is the feeling of the claiming. This is the heart of the matter, I believe. So
yes. Well, the sense. See, there's a sense. So when there's an action, there's a sense that you did it. You pictured as this body, Michael. Yes. Yes or no?
There's a sense of what? Let's just give an example.
When there's an awareness of doing, there's a sense that there was a doer.
Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That you or the other person or God or something was the doer.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's right there. So there's that doing was claimed. And that claiming was used to imply or to manufacture a sense of being the doer. Yes.
I see. So it's like a noun verb or a verb noun. Because I'm claiming that I have done it, Michael did it. And by saying Michael did it, that's a verb. I'm verbing, I'm talking, I'm saying, and I'm actually describing a noun, which is Michael. So there's verb nouning.
Yeah, that's why we call it selfing. Selfing is a verb. And the selfing is the act of being identified as self. So this is what, there's a verb in the claiming. And that the verb of the claiming is, after the claiming, the act of being identified as the one. That's what happens. So if you look at time, it's a manufacturing. There's what's happening, these appearances going, verbing, yeah? There's a reaction to that. There's no you reacting to it. There's a reaction, let's say from the mental processes. That reaction claims the verbing to imply that there's someone doing it or being done to by it. Yeah? That someone suddenly becoming a product made out of the conveyor belt now is before the conveyor belt and is taking credit for all the shit that's being produced.
Yeah.
Or taking blame. Yes?
Yeah. It reminds me of something Alan Watts said. He talked about time, and he explained how the fallacy is that time flows from the past into the present and on into the future. But actually, it's flowing from the now into the past, like a wake of a ship. You know, you see the ship and you see there's a wake, but then it ends. You can't see where the ship was before the wake. So the question is the wake driving the ship, or is the ship driving the wake? So similarly, and also does
matter. It doesn't matter because time is part of the magic trick. See, because the programming as the action figure, there's a belief that time is linear. Yes, that there's a past. It's moving right now through this thing called the present. That's given that identity through referring to past and future. The present is not the present. It's a companion of the past and the future. Yeah. So there's this sense that past, present, future. The mental state plays with time differently. It says that which comes after is before. So it makes this idea up and then says you've been that idea for 70 years.
Yeah.
See, this is the bondage of self. The bondage of self is you're captured by this illusory quality of time.
And you're saying
you were Paul and you're going to be Paul.
And you're saying that could continue, but there could be a realization, so to speak, of it, which will just see it happening. It won't stop, but something will see it.
Yeah.
And that's liberation.
It's going to continue.
Hasn't it reduced?
It's going to.
Hasn't it reduced in Paul Hedderman?
Its influence has been greatly reduced because there's no Paul Hedderman. Paul Hedderman is a product of these processes. Yes, there's something that's before with nothing else before. Yes, so see, to have an understanding from Paul about the manufacturing of Paul is severely limited. To have a seeing of the manufacturing of Paul from what you are is incredibly valuable.
So let's talk about the sheep and the lion.
Well, the sheep and the lion was the first video to try to get this across.
By the way, just so you know, I've listened to about 50, let's say, of your satsangs or whatever you call them, you know, these the Zoom meetings, and I've heard you say in about 35 of them talking about the sheep and the lion, but only recently I heard the actual story about the lion and the sheep. So, you know, maybe you should have a short version whenever you mention it. Otherwise, I'm like, what is he on about? So what's the short version of the real lion and the sheep and all that, with the lion that was raised by sheep and all that?
Yes. Well, we have add-ons too, because more has been revealed, let's say. So the sheep and the lion.
Scoop.
Simple story, right? The simple story of there was a lioness and her cub, and they were roaming around, and then the lioness gets killed, and the cub is sort of abandoned, orphaned, doesn't know what's going on, so it's roaming around, and it sees a herd of sheep, and it starts moving towards the sheep. Now the sheep see it as a lion, so they're a little worried, but then they realize it doesn't even know it's a lion, so it gets ingratiated in the herd and starts trying to live like a sheep, and it gets some value, like a sense of belonging and community, but there's a weird feeling of irritable, restless, and discontent, but he just keeps rationalizing in a way the head does, yes? And then he starts looking at sheep, basically to eat them, but it gets turned into, I want to meet that sheep and have a baby, because it's now been programmed to be a sheep. So it marries the sheep, the female sheep, they have kids, they look a little strange, but they rationalize that away. And now it becomes like a big sheep elder over the years, and it's got a big position, and it's still feeling irritable, restless, and discontent. And, it tries to feign interest in everyone complaining about who's going to be the next sweater next year and shit. But it's living the best it can without knowing anything better. So then one day they're chewing cud, and then a big lion comes into the scene, starts running after the herd. And it's running, and it sees this young lion, it's a little older now, and it thinks it's joining the hunt, but it realizes it's running with the sheep. So it veers off and gets that young lion, flips it over, and the young lion goes, "Oh, Mr. Lion, please don't eat me. I'm just a humble sheep." Now the older lion's a little perplexed, doesn't say anything, just gets it by the scruff of the neck, drags it over to the water hole, and then puts both of their heads out, and they see their reflections. And the young lion gets it. Yeah, it gets the last answer, which was the only answer. I'm a lion. Yeah. So then the old lion goes raw, and then the young lion roars, and that's the end of the story. But see, this is what happens after the old lion splits. The young lion starts listening to the head and takes itself to be the sheep again. This is the dilemma. This is why we give satsang, is to point out the warnings about what happens after the young lion leaves the waterhole, because shit happens. People, they get a sense in satsang of seeing life from what they are. They leave, it gets claimed by what they're not, and now what they're not uses non-duality like it uses everything else to try to get somewhere.
Yep.
And it fails.
Yep.
And it fails them miserably, and that's its value, because it doesn't give them anything.
Yeah.
Because it's a fact. Yes.
That's just like when the magic mushrooms wear out. Same thing happens. The head comes back and claims the noun and all that. So what's the add-on? What's the add-on? You said there's add-ons.
Well, these are the add-ons. So why keep talking to the lion about being a lion when it's going to be turned into being heard by a sheep? The programming of the sheep is going to keep happening. So let's just point that out, so that even though there's a sense of a sheep, you're still the lion. You see, the sense of the sheep being going on does not disqualify you from your inherent condition. Nothing does. Yeah. No matter what's happening in the sky, none of it affects the sky. Yeah. The sky allows whatever wants to appear in it to appear, but it's not affected by it.
Yeah.
The same thing when the sheep programming is going on, it's not a disqualification of you being a lion.
Of course.
See, this is why a lot of people are waiting. They're waiting for that verification, and they're not going to get it because they're waiting as a sheep for the sheep to stop. Yes? It doesn't. It doesn't have to.
So you
it's not necessary.
So you basically shout, "You're not a sheep. You're not a sheep. God damn it, you're not a sheep." That's what you reckon should be done.
No, what we do is describe sheep-likeness. Yeah, we describe the sheeping, and then hopefully the lion hears it. Yeah, and then it looks at the sheeping and doesn't say, "Oh, that's me. That's about me." It sees it as foreign. Yeah, and then there's a loss of interest in it.
And then there's just lioning happens.
Obvious, yes. Even though everyone else sees you as a sheep, yeah. There's a lion in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, and in your case, in Paul Hedderman's case, you keep pretending to be a sheep because you go to the store and you say, "Can I have this, please? And may I tell me what's the time?" Well, that's you sheeping, but inside you're like, "I know that language is just irrelevant, but fuck it. I'm living with language. I might as well use it."
If you see the sheeping from the lion, what the sheeping will be greeted with is acceptance. If you see the sheeping from the sheeping, you'll think like you have to go to war or vanquish it or fucking this or that. If you see it from the lion, there's acceptance. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sincerely putting importance on this. Most people are looking at the sheep from the sheep. Yeah. That's not the message. The message is to see what you're not by hearing, by sensing, whatever, yeah, from what you are. Because most people are trying to look and talk about and think about what they are from what they're not. It doesn't go anywhere, I feel.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Goes places, but it doesn't. Yeah. So,
and that's, you can't and that comes again back to, you can't get out of a place you've never been in, and you can't get back into a place you've never been out of.
Yes, exactly. This is the premise of non-duality, believe it or not. It's not about you becoming a non-you. That's not what it's about. It's questioning, it's negating the seeming existence of that you from the get-go. It's not like, oh, you're going to become an un-you. No, there's never been one. There never will be one.
Yeah.
And so without there being a you, there's not going to be a non-you. There's nothing like that.
Yeah. So I'm going to give another something. I'm going to quote you on.
People call me, they'll tell me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
People call you, you just said?
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
We think we want to get into reality. We want to get out of reality. In both cases, it's dualistic. Yeah?
Well, yeah, you're having an idea of reality from another idea of reality. Yeah. Reality isn't an idea. I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not, and it's not an idea. So yeah,
Okay.
this is like coming to a shoe store. Let's call it a spiritual shoe store. We're just putting out some shoes. Put them on, see if they work. If they fit, wear them. If they don't, keep doing what you're doing. And everything has value because it either will show you that it's successful or it's failed. They're both valuable. Yeah. So a lot of people get to the ridiculousness of searching through a lot of searching. Far out. I don't care how they arrived there. I'd like it to be sped up if possible, but if that's what it took, far out. Yeah. I don't believe that's what it takes, but if that's what it took in this little unwinding, far out. Yeah. But I do not want to make it, this is the way it goes. I don't believe there's any way it goes. It can go any way it wants. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's just, So a lot of things, people go on retreats and they sit and meditate for 15 hours, and that's the bondage of the meditator. And they drink, juices, and they do yoga, and they go to another retreat and they sit longer and they starve themselves. What you're saying is basically, you could keep doing it, but just that's the selfing reinforcing itself. It doesn't mean you stop. Just be aware.
It can have value, but basically the value would be shown in the physical, mental, emotional, nervous system level. Yeah. The idea, when I was sitting for 14 hours, I believed I was going somewhere. It wasn't for blood pressure or just to feel more calm. I believed I was going to transcend as this and get to the golf course of heaven or something. Yes. So I was under a lot of mistaken understandings. That's what was needed, yeah. But for some people, they find great friendships at retreats. They have a sense of community, far out. Yeah. But can we just strip away some of the embellishment of it and just realize it's for the action figure to feel better and to react better and have more balance? Great, I'm all for that. The idea of using this body as a chariot to the gods is, to me, insane. It doesn't. It's not. That's not its purpose. It doesn't have that ability. Yeah?
So self-inquiry. Yeah. Ramana Maharshi talks about self-inquiry. So basically, you could self-inquire in the toilet, while in the shower, while cutting your salad or anything. You don't have to go anywhere.
I find, once again, self-inquiry can be incredibly valuable, and then self-inquiry can become a little abusive when you're not able to take a shit or get off the pot because you're constantly asking, who is it that's taking a shit? Yeah, this is more about a freedom from that. Yeah. So what you're not gets accepted as with its limitations, and what you are is just free-ranging. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not a proponent of anything to do, but a lot of things can be valuable or they may not be. It matters what's before them.
Oh yeah,
it's us.
I even think Ramana Maharshi said that you do self-inquiry. You say, I am, and who is eating and who is sleeping. But I think eventually even that drops. I think he said that, didn't he?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, the point is, he said that once you have that sense of being, rest there. And if the head comes up and starts moving and you go along with the train, ask who's on the train. Yeah. And then basically keep coming back to that rest until that you realize you never left the rest. Yeah. Even though there's agitation. Agitation does not mean there is no rest. In our mental logic, we believe that. We believe if I'm agitated, I'm not at peace. No. Peace is the context. Agitation is content.
Yes.
We're giving the content the role of context. We're believing how I feel is the reality. It's not.
So you could be resting in reality, but the action figure could be feeling shit and miserable and having a panic attack, but you could still be aware of it and be realized.
That's a fact right
Wow.
there. Whatever condition that's going to come and go is held in the context of what we are. A lot of us, what happens with us being identified as this thing, we believe the condition of the thing has a huge importance in our overall condition. In the absolute state, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have any relevance. I've experienced that with, years and years ago, we started sharing in recovery meetings. Yeah, and I would have a commitment to share, and I'd run this workshop, and every Monday night. Anytime I was in America, I had this open seat to run this thing for 16 years. Yep. That's a lot of Monday nights, 52 times 16. I was in a lot of different conditions, a lot of circumstantial, physical, emotional, financial. And every time I sat there, no matter what conditions the body and the brain was in, this thing would come through. So it was obvious I had nothing to do with it. Yes. And that's carried with me the rest of my life. Yeah. My condition doesn't override the inherent condition.
Of course. Yeah.
And this is what a lot of people are faced with, because we've made that which comes after, which are our conditions, to be before. And we think, I have no thoughts at all. I have to be completely stable, never have any sense of irritability and restlessness. This is all fucking insane. Yeah. The content is agitated. The context is not. Yes, it's that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Why believe one is the effect of the other when actually it's the bowl that receives all the different soups? Yeah. The bowl never changes. It takes pea soup, fucking whatever. It's the bowl. We're believing we're the bowl, and therefore take the bowl's condition be based on the content.
Yeah. So the bowl is identifying with the pea soup and the onion soup, and the bowl says, "Well, I'm an onion soup," while it's a bowl.
Yeah.
Like the sky remains the sky if it's with clouds, or if it's raining, or if it's snowing. The sky is unaffected. Which brings me to, now I realize when I had panic attacks, it's the mental state on steroids, looping and just, what's this going to happen? That's going to happen. Oh my God, what's this? But there was something there in the background experiencing it all. And it was still and quiet and almost like, I'm here, if you want to have a panic attack, have a panic attack, nothing to do with me.
So somebody in a depression can have a very clear narration of that, because there's a clarity there no matter how deep a depression is. Yes. See, this is that unsuspected inner resource we talk about in recovery. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Inner resource?
We call it an unsuspected inner resource. Inner meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, but the unsuspected. What's the answer? Who's suspecting it or not suspecting it?
Well, that's the who is the unsuspecting of it. Yeah. Because the inner resource is based on that's what you are. The who is based on that's what you are. Yeah. Do you see?
No, I see that the unsuspected resource is it. It's reality. But
yes,
it's not suspecting itself, or is the action figure?
Thinking about appearance again. You have to. This language is not an absolute language.
No.
There wouldn't be anything. This is about appearances. So that inner resource is unsuspecting to what you're not. It doesn't notice it because it's busily noticing everything pertaining to itself. That imaginary idea.
Okay.
So when if you lose interest in the who, that unsuspected inner resource is what you are.
Of course, because no matter what happens, it's still going to be there. You could have a nightmare. You could be cutting yourself. You could be having multiple orgasms. the inner self remains unaffected, so to speak, or detached in a way.
Well, isn't it here right now? Yes.
Sorry?
It's here now, right now. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there you go. So the point is, most of us are like those little bugs on the surface of like stagnant water. We're flitting around here and there. Yeah. And most of the attention and interest is being dealt onto the surface. Yeah. When if there would be a loss of interest in this little skitterbug called Paul, that interest attention would drop, and then there would be a sense of presence. Yeah. Because in the interest and attention is the presence. Yeah. Undirected interest and attention is that sense of presence. Yeah.
And many people
of what we are.
Yeah. People have told me, I've heard stories of people who did not take drugs, or not drugs, but shamanic plants, etc.
I'm losing you.
Yeah, one,
I'm
two, three.
Losing you.
Yeah,
You're coming out.
It's going to come back. It's going to come back in a second. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
yes.
It's back. So people, I've heard from some people who had experiences of that without drugs or anything. People who just suddenly had a few seconds of that expanded awareness, and it seems to lose its effect.
It happens a lot, but then the mental state kicks in, and it's sort of like the mental state will forget a miracle in a half hour and will constantly obsess over a seeming slight of 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to see it. You have to see an agenda there. Yeah.
Another thing.
We constantly get free samples because the fact is we're awake. Now, in this activity, we can seem to be awake to that fact, or we can seem to be asleep to that fact. Yeah. But the fact is the fact. Yeah.
That we're awake. Or awakeness. There is awakeness.
Most definitely. That's all there is.
Yeah. So another
Everything else comes into appearance from awakeness. Yeah. Yeah.
You keep saying, which I don't understand, use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Like, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha? What?
That's Huang Po, so don't blame me. Huang Po, can you hear me?
Of course.
The Huang Po says, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can't use mind to seek mind. You can't use light to seek light. You can do it for eons and nothing's going to happen. So obviously, he's implying you're the Buddha, your mind, your light. Yes? He's not talking to Michael or Paul. He's talking through Michael and through Paul to get to the Buddha, to get to mind, and get to light. Yes?
So you can't seek the Buddha with the Buddha, meaning, since I am already the Buddha...
For the Buddha.
Yeah, so... Yeah. So I can't invent an action figure to try and get out of itself to find the Buddha, because I'm already it.
You're the Buddha. You're using the light to find the light.
And that's no good.
The head is.
And that's no good, according to him.
Well, it's not, doesn't have any meaning other than that what it's given, but basically it's fundamentally flawed. FLAWED. It doesn't work. Yeah. Because you are the light. This is the premise of non-duality that keeps aggravating everyone, is because there's still, by behavior, by appearance, that which comes after is still playing the role of before.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to have all this experiential knowledge of the experience of Paul and believe that it's the light. Yeah. But the point is, it isn't the light as that appearance. It's the light appearing as that, but it's not the light as that appearance. Yes?
Yes. Yeah, I think I understand. As I said, if you are the awareness, presence, presence exists, awareness, reality, and then there's this whole mechanical thing which we described, the creation of a non-existent separate self that tries to find reality. So the reality doesn't need to create this non-existent thing to find itself, because it's already itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And when you are trying to escape something, it reinforces what you are trying to escape from.
Obviously. Just look at it. look at just go in for a second. You'll see it clearly. When I'm trying to get out of something, I've given it a reality of inness, obviously. Yeah. Because I'm the dreaming of the dreaming. I'm the dreaming, not the dreamt. I'm dreaming. So I'm lending reality to things as reality. False evidence appears real. How could false evidence appear real? It would have to appear real to reality. Yes.
Now
So
I
this
get
is
it.
what's going.
Now I understand what you said at the beginning of this interview, and I was like a bit lost when you said we are the dreaming, not the dreamt. So again, the reality, the oneness, the awareness, the presence is dreaming, and it's dreaming all this stuff we've just discussed. It's dreaming the separate self. It's dreaming the doer and the claiming and the verb and the noun. And that's the dreamt, but that's not really the dreamer. That's just the dream, which is not the real thing. Lovely.
It's the dreaming. Yes, there's no dream. There's no thing called a dream. There's dreaming. There's not a beginning or an end. It's just happening.
But there is a dreamt.
No, that's an identification as something see, the identification as the doer and stuff is pictured as a thing.
So can the dreamer dream without anything being dreamt?
Exactly. There's just dreaming. It's appearing. There's an appearance that something is so, but it's only appearing to be so.
Maybe it's like a computer game.
Is happening, but nothing ever happens.
So maybe it's like a computer game. There's the human playing the game, and there's an avatar, in the game. So basically, it's like saying, well, you are not that avatar. You are the actual human that's playing the game. You are not the game itself. Yeah.
But you're not. The negation would be of the avatar and the one who's thinking it's playing the game.
Wow.
They're both off the boards.
Okay, so that's a bad example.
There's no noun. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Okay.
If a noun perplexively go over that, it doesn't go anywhere. When what we are in the activity is verbing, when the verbing hears it, it makes a lot of fucking sense.
Okay. And one more thing, the system.
Yeah, I have to go in a minute.
Yeah, I know. You have 8 minutes, so that's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's been 1 hour and 22 minutes, and I'm using every second with you that I have. So the system is a failed system that is not designed to see the holes in it. That's why people need gurus.
They don't need gurus unless they do.
But what's with the holes and things? I just quoted you. You can't negate it because you said it.
The holes are just the failure of the system. The system has a limit of comprehension. It has a fundamental framed way of understanding. It can't get out of the programming as the programming. It's just that fucking simple.
Yeah.
Its value is to show you it's failed. That's what a failed system can show you. It's failed. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just a few more minutes about you then. So now we've discussed all the subjects and everything, and we've gone over it, and I'm sure all your viewers are going to love this. It's going to be of great value, this interview, to my viewers and to your viewers and to the whole world. So what about you? Who's the action figure Paul Hedderman? I mean, do you work? I mean, are you married? Do you have kids? Do you do things?
No, I don't work. This is the work that I'm involved with. I have a cat right now looking at me. I live with a wonderful woman. She has 4 children. They're not here most of the time. We got a big freaking puppy dog, Labrador. No, a black retriever. Yeah. Pretty much chilled out.
And where do you live? New York?
No, I live in Novato, California. I'm from New York, but I live in Novato. most wise New Yorkers end up in California.
Hmm.
So about a half hour north of the city, San Francisco.
I see. Okay, so when did your awakening, or whatever you want to call it, happen?
Now, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. I mean, you were when you got sober.
I don't have any historical thing. I was just I came, I found myself in certain seat assignments that I was put to good use to get something across to others, and then that just went its own direction. Yeah. So I mostly like to emphasize the message, not the messenger, because it really doesn't have anything to do with the messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have a pretty chilled out life, and what's incredible, I have the ability to be grateful about that and to enjoy it. And, I know a statement in AA is very alive for me, which is something has done for me what I can't do for myself. Yeah. So I live in that most of the time. And I came to understand that I have the ability to be convinced. I was convinced of things, and this message became the last answer. I have no interest in it as a vehicle to get somewhere. It stopped all that, and I've never met an answer like this.
When was that? When did it become the final answer? A year ago? 20 years ago?
20 years ago or so.
Okay.
Maybe.
Lucky you.
Something
20 years. Lucky you. I mean, you seem like a young man, relatively.
No, I'm an old guy. Yeah. Young at heart, as they say.
I see. Okay. So.
But, yeah.
Yeah. But?
No, there's the, how this has translated into the action figure world. It just became a traveling lighter. Yes. And I figure really on a level of the action figure, really what more do you want? I mean, traveling lighter is an incredible, valuable. It's not an event or a thing, but it influences every event and thing. So, yeah, it's because this action figure was a very disturbed action figure. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of trauma and addiction, and I've been driven by a lot of things that brought me places that I wouldn't advise others to go. Now I feel like the action figure is driven by something that's completely foreign to my mental state. So it's all cool. And it's a win-win, very inclusive, accepting. I hadn't had an acceptance as an action figure since my grandmother passed away. And it wasn't wise to not to know it by it because it was absent. So when it started to show up back in my life, it took a while to recognize it. But that which I'm not has been accepted, which it never was when it was taken to be me. So that's an incredible shift of condition.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we've now reached the very final stage of the interview. 1 second.
I got 1 minute.
1 minute. So I'm asking you to address your fellow humans with a message, with a request, demand, or suggestion from the bottom of your heart directly to them. Paul Hedderman, the stage is yours. Go ahead, please.
Whatever. I can't say anything. I feel inherently we're all okay, and I also empathize when it doesn't feel that way. So, yeah.
Amazing.
There you go.
What a lovely message. So, Paul Hedderman, I've enjoyed every second of this interview, and I wish you luck, and I'm going to be listening to you, and I will put your videos, a link to your YouTube videos below, so our viewers could join and watch you. Thank you so much. Take care. And have a great day, as they say.
Thank you, Michael.
Cheers. Take care now. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye. And to our lovely viewers, oh my God, this was amazing. I've actually got to interview Paul Heddermane himself. I could die a happy man now. I am so excited and happy. And wow, so I'm sure you've received great value of this amazing interview. What can I say? I'm over the moon. Thank you so much for watching. Please share, enjoy life, connect to awareness. Remember who you are, self-inquiry, hallelujah, praise the Lord. See you in the next interview. Goodbye now.